What does that say?
Fish.
Words come naturally to Tianti Gaines' daughter, Naya.
The cat is sad.
They seem to provide the little girl an escape.
Good job.
From the problems at home, like this hole in her brother's room.
Showed a good shot of the hole.
Naya's mom
It's literally sliding off.
invited us into her apartment to see what she's upset about,
I want to come inside.
including cockroaches,
So I can keep this boat.
Oh, it fell in that shoe.
mice, and a black substance growing on the wall.
They don't want to fix the stuff.
And even a previous sewage system overflow that flooded the hallway right outside her door.
It was coming up like a fountain. It was very disgusting.
About 1,600 low-income people live at the Section 8 housing complex, Essex Village, in Henrico's East End. But some residents here tell us the place has not been maintained by its owners.
This is why my daughter can't play in her room. And when you let it go, it just falls.
Resident Martisha Gregory showed us a window in her daughter's room that won't stay open and it won't lock.
I would not be able to explain to my kids why other kids live in the conditions that they live in this complex. And it's not the fault of the kids.
Henrico County Manager John Vitolkis says after a visit to Essex Village last summer, he decided to take action.
There's a wrong that's been committed here. And the wrong is that individuals have made a lot of money, and they've not kept the complex to the specifications that they were supposed to.
Vitolkis put Deputy County Manager Doug Middleton in charge of a task force aimed at improving the quality of life at the complex.
It's not a place that anybody should have to exist and live in.
In November, county building inspectors opened 140 code violation cases at Essex Village, and the fire and police departments found that they are roughly 2 times more likely to respond to calls for service there than anywhere else in the county.
We can't be effective in providing for a safe community if the community is not being maintained.
Then, in January, inspectors from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development gave Essex Village an F grade. HUD says the owner, California-based GHC Housing Partners, receives nearly $5.4 million taxpayer dollars a year to subsidize the rent of residents. Middleton and Vitolkis say they want to know, how is that money being used?
It's disgusting to me that anyone drawing federal funds to the level that they were drawing them could allow a complex to get into the condition that it was in.
We took their concerns to the head of GHC Housing Partners, Greg Perlman.
Would you say that you've made good use of taxpayer dollars at this property so far?
We've maintained this property well since we purchased it in 2012. And, over the last few months, I think things, like I said, they were not up to our standards.
Perlman faults a former regional vice president for not maintaining the property up to his standards and says that employee has been terminated.
We're putting this is the number one property for our management company. There's no amount of funds that we won't spend on this property to bring it up to our standards.
During a recent visit, the new regional vice president told CBS 6 that things are changing for the better and asked us to talk to certain residents who say they are happy.
I love the new people.
Among them, Sha'anta Oliver, who showed us her brand new refrigerator.
Old management weren't too good. The new ones, I'm very pleased with.
New tiles in her bathroom.
All this was hanging down, open from water damage.
And a recently repaired leak, though we discovered part of her ceiling is still leaking.
Oh, it's leaking right here. There's a water puddle right there.
Still, Perlman promises that all residents will see major changes by the beginning of May.
Once the 100% maintenance completion is over, will you come to town and give us a tour of the property?
I will be happy to show you the property and make sure that, it's up to, that it's moving up to our standards.
Perlman told me the building needs a $19 million renovation, and he wanted to do one using tax-exempt bonds and tax credits, but he says the county would not support the plan. But county leaders say they didn't feel comfortable giving GHC Housing Partners massive tax credits when they had not handled the taxpayer dollars they were given by HUD appropriately. The county and Perlman plan to meet next month to work toward a solution. Working for you, I'm Melissa Hippolyte for CBS 6.
You see, when I step it, it's a whole puddle. That's how bad it is.
Water flows down Jaya Bryant's wall, collecting in the carpet below.
I've been out here since 2014, every summer it does the same thing.
Bryant blames her air conditioner for the leak that stretches from her living room all the way into a bedroom.
I reported that, called up there to the rent office, and all they said was that they were going to send someone out, and they were, I was like, okay, thank you, and that was the end of the conversation. I haven't heard from them.
We've heard stories like Bryant's for months from people who live at Essex Village, a sprawling low-income housing complex in Henrico County.
When it shouldn't take for someone to have to call the news for you guys to come fix what you're supposed to fix.
Back in April, we highlighted the problems in a CBS 6 investigation after Henrico County issued 140 code violations at the property. At the time, the owner, Greg Perlman, told us they had maintained the property well, and only in the past couple of months had things not been up to their standards. He promised residents would see major changes by the beginning of May. And some residents say improvements are happening.
The sink in here is brand new. The shower wall is brand new. The towel, they put towel all through the house.
How did you finally get them to come in here and do work?
I called you.
Still, here we are in late June, and Deputy County Manager Doug Middleton says problems persist.
Up to this point, we continue with doing maintenance that, in our opinion, is subpar. You can see a hypodermic needle in this picture.
He briefed the entire Henrico Board of Supervisors about the ongoing issues Tuesday night and showed our story. The board chair told Middleton it's time for the board to take action and set up meetings with folks in Washington.
As much as we've tried and as hard as we've worked, I am absolutely convinced that it is going to take a continued, consistent pressure from the county to see the kind of changes that we want to see there.
I can't live here, not under these conditions.
And you shouldn't have to, nor should pregnant women fall through deteriorated balconies.
Her legs was all scarred up.
Deal with infestation, mold, and holes in the wall.
I'm just waiting for the ceiling to fall in.
Now state and county leaders have joined problem solver Melissa Hippolyte to make changes, watching how your tax dollars are spent to maintain low-income housing.
We have a responsibility both as human beings.
The problem solvers, we're working for you.
Raw sewage on the ground.
Like he was coming up like a fountain, like it was very disgusting.
Stairs in disrepair.
It's like this step.
And boarded up windows. Just a few of the 140 code violations Henrico County issued to the Essex Village apartment complex back in November of 2016.
It's not a place that anybody should have to exist and live in.
But the Section 8 complex had previously received a decent inspection score from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, a 75B out of 100.
HUD did inspections and gave him passing grades, and they just kept right on going.
Henrico's Deputy County Manager Doug Middleton maintains the problems the county found did not happen overnight and raised questions at a recent Board of Supervisors meeting about HUD's process for holding landlords who receive millions in taxpayer dollars accountable.
There's a problem with the system, sir. That's the best that I can describe it.
Deplorable living conditions. In fact, the CBS 6 problem solvers uncovered examples from across the country where similar low-income housing properties had received good inspection scores but had major problems.
You've invalidated the score of the 85.
Absolutely.
Is that rare for HUD?
Very rare.
For example, at Eureka Gardens in Jacksonville, Florida, HUD was forced to retract its most recent inspection score of 85 when city inspectors found 163 code violations there.
People knocked on our door, so we had to get out.
And in 2015, the roof collapsed at the Burton apartment complex in Cincinnati, but the property had received an impressive 90 on its most recent federal inspection.
HUD has been not the best oversight agency because it's been starved of resources.
Michael Kane heads up the national union that represents tenants in privately owned HUD-subsidized properties like Essex Village. He says he's not surprised by our findings.
The inspectors, they're counting paper clips while missing the big problems that are plaguing the tenants in many of the buildings.
What's the disconnect there? Why are these properties getting good scores and yet having problems?
Well, they're using a scoring system designed in the 90s before there was awareness of a lot of these issues, and they just haven't changed it.
HUD's Real Estate Assessment Center, called REAC for short, oversees the inspections, which are conducted by private companies contracted by HUD. We dug into Essex Village's latest inspection from December of 2015 and found that just 5% of the nearly 500 apartment units were actually inspected.
Is that really a good
accountability measure, 5%?
No, we don't think so. We think they should look at more.
Kane says HUD needs to update its scoring system because he says the current one does not give enough weight to issues like mold and bed bugs. He says tenants also want HUD to involve them in the inspection process.
You're saying the inspectors don't talk to the tenants?
Yeah, they're told not to. The current protocol of REAC is that their inspectors are scientific investigators and they can't talk to the tenants.
We asked HUD if that's true. A spokesperson would only say that residents are encouraged to be present during the inspection of their unit, but did not directly answer the question of whether inspectors actually talk to residents.
Both Kane and Middleton say something needs to change ASAP, considering the amount of taxpayer dollars the owner of Essex Village is receiving to subsidize rent.
We can't overlook the fact that responsibility for the inspection process and ensuring that they were doing what they were supposed to do and what they were receiving that $5+ million a year for rested with HUD.
We have repeatedly asked for an interview with someone at HUD, but they have denied all of our requests. We asked why, and we never received a response.
This carpet is nasty. It's trifling.
Dirty, ripped carpet and an air conditioner that doesn't seem to cool the apartment.
It's hotter in here than it is out there.
9 months after the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development gave Essex Village a failing inspection score, this woman, who asked us to hide her identity, says her apartment at the Section 8 complex and many others remain dumps. She's apparently not the only one who thinks so. The CBS 6 problem solvers exclusively obtained this letter sent to the owner of Essex Village by HUD that shows HUD re-inspected the property in August, passing the complex overall, but failing the apartment units. Despite work being done right now at the complex, HUD found conditions in the apartments unacceptable and a serious risk to the health and safety of tenants. We talked to Congressman Donald McKeechin about the findings.
What was your reaction to that when you saw that? I mean, this is 9 months after HUD originally failed them.
My patience with HUD is running a little thin.
HUD's letter demands corrective actions within 90 days. They made a similar request after failing the property in January.
Sadly, they're giving them another 90 days to fix it, which in my judgment is too long.
In an effort to speed up the process, Henrico County will send this letter to residents this week asking them to call the county to request an inspection. The county can't go into a unit without a resident's invitation, and the county manager says he wants to see exactly what is going on inside the units.
We have to know, and right now we don't know.
This is inhumane, the way that we live.
At 75, Sarah White's ready to relax at home.
It was wet underneath there.
But she describes her 3-bedroom apartment at Essex Village as anything but comfortable.
But see, right there.
The owner of a Baltimore-based investment firm is trying to buy the Section 8 property. Ernst Valerie tells CBS 6 he is not considering a teardown, but he would do a full rehab of the property if HUD supports a rent increase to fund the renovations. Under Valerie's proposal, a 3-bedroom at the Section 8 complex would cost up to $1,445 in rent. A 1-bedroom, $1,055.
Do you think this place is worth more than...
No, it don't. Not unless they tear it completely down and rebuild it. Because I think it's rotten through.
Those numbers are higher than what HUD calculated for fair market rent in Henrico for next year. He says the money will allow him to fix kitchens, bathrooms, the sewer system, and walls, among other things. County Manager John Vitolkis says the rent increases don't sit well with him since taxpayers are already paying $5.4 million annually to subsidize the complex.
So in this case, we now have a new proposed owner that is going to increase rents even more than the rents that were proposed to be increased by the current owner, who we've had many, many problems with.
We did some comparison apartment shopping and found a couple of 1 to 3 bedroom apartments in the Short Pump area ranging from about $960 to $1,420. In the East End, we found a complex offering 1 to 3 bedroom apartments for about $765 to $1,000.
You take the highest upper end apartment complexes in Short Pump and you have equivalency to what's being requested now for Essex Village. I can't make sense of that.
Now, Valerie says the amount that residents would pay would not change. However, the amount that taxpayers would be subsidizing would increase by about 40%. Working for you tonight in Henrico County, I'm Melissa Hippolyte for CBS 6.